Open up your notebooks to the page that we started a couple days ago called Solving One-Step Equations. We've already filled in the addition and subtraction boxes. Today we're going to fill in the multiplication and division boxes. We're going to start with equations with multiplication. So let's go ahead and write down one example. We'll start with 6x equals 42. Alright, so we have the equation 6x equals 42. I know this is an equation with multiplication because whenever we have a number next to a variable, there's an invisible multiplication sign in between them. So 6x is the same as 6 times x equals 42. Now, as usual, when we're solving equations, I want this x to be all by itself. But the problem is, I've got a 6 in the way. I don't want to know what 6x's equal. I want to know what 1x equals. So I want to get rid of this 6. And I can't just subtract it because it's being multiplied times this x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually divide this side by 6. I'm going to divide the other side by 6 as well, because I have to do the same thing to both sides. Now let's see, if I have 6x divided by 6, that leaves me with 1x, and 42 divided by 6 would equal 7. 1x is just the same as writing x. So we get x equals 7. We could go back and check this. If it was 6 times x, or 6 times 7, that would equal 42. There's one example of an equation with multiplication. Let's do one more example. Let's do 18 equals negative 3x. 18 equals negative 3x. Again, I know that this is a multiplication equation because whenever there's a number next to a variable, I know there's a little invisible multiplication sign. This means negative 3 times x. As usual, I want to get this x all by itself, but I have this negative 3 that is multiplied by it. I want to get rid of that negative 3. And since these are being multiplied, what I want to do is I want to divide that negative 3 off. And since I did it to this side, I'm going to do it to the other side as well. Looking over here, we have negative 3x divided by negative 3. I know a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Negative 3 divided by a negative 3 is positive 1. So we've got 1x, here's my equal sign. 18 divided by negative 3, that's going to be, let's see, a positive divided by a negative is negative 6. And since 1x is the same as just a regular x, we could rewrite this as x is equal to negative 6. And we could plug this back in. Does 18 equal negative 3 times negative 6? Negative 3 times negative 6 is positive 18. So one thing that we can note is that whenever we see multiplication, to solve that equation, we do division. We see that they're multiplying these. To solve it, we're going to do division. All right, that pretty much sums it up for equations with multiplication. Let's move on to the last box and talk about equations with division. Let's do x divided by 3 equals 8. A lot of mathematicians will use this to represent division. Got x divided by 3 equals 8. Now, as usual, I want this x all by itself, but we have a divided by 3 next to it. I want to get rid of that divided by 3. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to multiply this side times 3. I'm going to do 3 times x over 3. And I'm going to multiply on the other side as well, times 3. The right side is pretty easy to figure out. 8 times 3 equals 24. Over here, this is written in fraction form, and this is written as just a whole number, but I can write this as a fraction. If I change it to 3 over 1. And if you remember how to multiply fractions, we'd do 3 times x and 1 times 3. So 3 times x is 3x. 1 times 3 is just 3. But now I'm left with 3x divided by 3 equals 24. Well, this is pretty simple. 3x divided by 3 is equal to 1x equals 24. But since I can write 1x as just a regular x, we end up with x equals 24. And I can check this in my original equation. Does 24 divided by 3 equal 8? Absolutely. All right, here will be our last example. Let's do 11 is equal to x over negative 2. I know that this is a division equation because this says x divided by negative 2. I want to get this x by itself, but there's this divided by negative 2 in the way. To get rid of this divided by negative 2, I'm going to multiply times negative 2. So I'm going to do this side times negative 2, this side times negative 2. All right, let's start with the left side of our equation. Negative 2 times 11 is negative 22. Over here, this is set up like a fraction. I'm going to turn this whole number into a fraction by writing over 1. Got x times negative 2 and negative 2 times 1. X times negative 2 would equal negative 2x. Negative 2 times 1 equals negative 2. So now I have negative 22 equals negative 2x divided by negative 2. Well, I can do this. Negative 2x divided by negative 2x is going to give me a positive 1x equals negative 22. But as usual, I can rewrite that 1x as just an x and say negative 22 is equal to x. So when we have equations involving division, when we see division, we do multiplication to solve it. All right, if you've got this down, go ahead and flip to the page next to it. Try to start some of these 10 multiplication problems for practice. If you don't finish them all, that's okay.